this. I mean, it is one thing to say that, we need Bernie Sanders to give us socialism and that type of thing, but it is a totally other thing when you are trying to destroy your own country from within. I'm not talking about knocking it down a peg. I'm not talking about, not making it so it is not an economic and military superpower anymore. It has gone beyond. I'm talking about total and complete and utter destruction of our society. Plain and simple. This is what these people seem to want, or this administration anyway. And for the life of me, I cannot figure out how he can find so many people to put in power and put in place in these cabinet positions, in secretary positions, that agree with him, that go along with what he's doing. Because, if you disagree with the president strongly about something, if you say that, no, Mr. President, this is endangering the welfare and the well-being of the men, women, and children of this country, I will not do it. And I will not resign. You'll have to fire me. That's pretty much how you do it. But no, we've got these people who go along willy-nilly and say, like Loretta Lynch, yeah, whatever the president says, I'll do. Are you kidding me? Where do we find this many boobs, airheads, nut jobs, self-loathing, self-hating people? I don't know where we're finding them all. And I didn't realize that there were really so many in this country that were willing to take the reins like that. But 3,700 illegal immigrants of threat level 1? Criminality being released onto our streets? Not even most of them not even being sent back to the country from whence they came. Just being, hey, they're illegal. They'll find their way back home. Right? We know. And yet we're told that we cannot round up, a bunch of illegals. Well, obviously not if you keep releasing them. You're not sending them back. You keep finding and catching the same ones over and over again. Well, that gets kind of expensive and boring. Look, folks, it has come to the point where we have to understand that our federal government can't keep us safe. They really can't. Look, we just had a data breach of federal personnel data. Now, the Office of Personnel Management and Interior Department got hacked successfully. So, who's on, all of the people that work for these departments, they're now exposed. Even those people who might be less than public knowledge that they're in certain positions are now exposed. Because, you are talking about the Interior Department. You're talking personnel management. Basically the human resources department of the federal government got hacked. What are you going to do about that, Mr. President? Are you going to go and consider and still say that we're the most respected and we're safe? Are you going to play? You know what? Somebody should just ask the president, Mr. President, we're living in a very dangerous time right now, where we have ISIS, threatening some of our allies, some of our close allies. We have open borders, and we have economic problems and all sorts of issues. We've got Putin over in Russia doing things to Ukraine. We've got China threatening in the South China Sea. Mr. President, for the remainder of your tenure in office, can you stay at the White House and run the country and be the leader and stay off the golf course? Somebody should ask him that. I'd ask him that if I could get in there. I really would. And I know the reason why I will never be allowed in the White House press corps. It isn't because I don't have credentials. It's because I would ask questions like that, and they don't want questions like that asked. In fact, when we see the White House, if the press corps asks the president or others in the White House some really straightforward, tough questions, they get upset, as if to say, how dare you ask us those kind of questions? How dare you ask us serious questions? And they get indignant about it. I've never seen an administration get so indignant about reporters actually doing their job by asking real and tough questions. I have never seen an administration get this upset this often. And that's from the president on down. And it's gotten to the point where now that even some, of the left-leaning journalists, and I use that term very loosely, are starting to say, hey, you really should answer our questions now. And people who are asking the questions, there's a lot less animosity towards the people who are asking those tough questions. They're not running cover for the president anymore. They're not saying, no, let it alone, sit down. What are you doing asking that question for? You're being rude or what have you. There's less and less of that happening. I know every once in a while you hear, well, you let them finish the question or answering the question. There's less of that. And I think that's happening more to protect Hillary now than it is Obama. And because you're getting the left that is, well, they're trying to say, well, we gotta come up with some way to bring Hillary to the forefront because she's fallen fast. She's really falling fast. This is supposed to be a slam dunk for her. Now it's not a slam dunk. And it is in such dire straits. It is in such dire straits. That they're looking for. Look, you got Lincoln Chafee that just jumped into the race. I mean, really? O'Malley and now Chafee? These are in your other strong candidate, I guess, is Bernie Sanders out of Vermont. So, really? And then you also have them wanting to draft Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren. I don't. It is unbelievable. You would think that they would have somebody in backup. Somebody with a better name recognition, better cred, who's had more accomplishments than and has a little bit stronger of a chance of actually winning the White House than the current field of Democrats are fielding right now. I mean, I can't remember the last time the field of Democrats was this weak. Now, don't get me wrong; it does not mean that they cannot pull out a win. Because, the Republicans have been known to self-destruct before. Happens. And that's it. I do not fear Hillary winning. What I fear is Republicans self-imploding. And, look, just as the last time around, the election and the nomination this time around was Hillary's to lose, and she's losing it. So likewise, the presidency to be gained in 2016 is there for the taking. Just to pick it up by the Republicans. They can't lose it. Well, they can lose it. But it isn't going to be based on a very strong Democratic contender. The way that the Republicans would possibly lose the White House race in 2016 is if they lose it. It's theirs to lose. Plain and simple. And if they implode and blow it up, that's the only way that they're not going to win it. There is nobody on the left side that should even come close. I mean, really. If it's Hillary, it should be the biggest landslide in the history of landslides in this country. If it's any of the others, I mean, they're so weak. O'Malley, Chafee, Sanders? Really? The man is 78 years old, and he's a kook, and he's a communist. I mean, it's kind of like running Ralph Nader. This is I don't know. Well, we still have a lot of time left between now and the nomination process is done and the election comes. Still have a lot of time. The Democrats could end up finding and throwing up a very strong and powerful contender. Don't know who that is. I don't know who it is. I mean, maybe other people know who it is, but I haven't really been looking because, who's it? Joe Biden? I mean, really, it does. If they throw up Elizabeth Warren, man, she's also going to be wide open on a national basis. I mean, she should have been beat by Mitt Romney, but it is what it is there. Or was it Mitt? No, I'm sorry, it's Scott Brown. She should have been beat by Scott Brown. But that is what it is. I mean, again, that was really a race for Scott Brown to lose. Scott Brown had that race in Mass, and he lost it. He blew it. And then he tried to regroup and move to New Hampshire and then take on Jeanne Shaheen, and he lost it there too. Well, and that's the Republicans' fault. You don't do a retread like that. We could have beaten Jeanne Shaheen if the Republicans hadn't just given the nomination to Scott Brown. See, this is how they lose things. They do stupid stuff like that. Now, as long as they don't do something stupid, is a very good, then we're going to have the White House in 2016. But that's the thing that I fear, is Republicans doing something stupid. Because they always seem to do that. When you least expect it, expect them to do something stupid. And they'll do something stupid enough to piss off the voters and to blow up their chances of gaining a great victory. That's plain and simple. They've done it before, and they will do it again. They've done it plenty. There's a plethora of times you can go back in history over the past century and see the Republicans, blowing themselves up, basically. When they had a win, and they screwed it up and blew it up. And then you have, then they whine and complain and say, well, see, nobody wants the conservatives. Well, that's not true. Yeah, people do want a conservative, true conservative, because you can't be a wannabe liberal. Because if somebody's going to choose between a true liberal and a liberal light, they're going to go for the true liberal every time. Why? It's like Coke's the real thing, right? So why go for the imitation when you can have the real thing? By the way, I prefer Pepsi. Why go for the imitation when you can have the real thing? Why go for the light or diet version when you can have the real thing? So as long as the Republicans don't do anything stupid, then they can easily retain the House, retain the Senate, maybe even pick up a seat or two, and win the White House. It's theirs for the asking. All they have to do is just take it and not screw it up. Because who else are they going to... Well, really? The only way that Hillary becomes a strong contender is if she wins the Democratic nomination and Republicans, because she's a woman, do not attack her on her record. Any of her record. Including that as a Secretary of State, including that as Senator of the state of New York, including that as First Lady, including that as First Lady of the state of Arkansas. I know it's Arkansas, but I like saying Arkansas. It's sassy to say Arkansas. In her time at the Rose Law Firm and all that, look, people who meet this woman and work close with her, we're finding out these people don't like her very much. There's a lot of people out there that Hillary Clinton has worked with closely in the past that don't like her because she's just a nasty woman. So, if you're a Republican, That's what you got to hit on. Her record and her nastiness. You'll win every time.